Guys, we need to talk about Bitcoin because a lot has happened again overnight. We've dropped down another level and we've actually seen $1 billion in long futures positions get liquidated on Binance alone. And I'm really just talking about OKX and Binance here. We'll take a look at that in a moment, at the whale orders and the analysis. But what's the deal with this new cluster down here that's formed? Once again, we see a pattern of various institutional players or whales who have placed another $255 million in long positions down here. And all of this is in a price range between 77,000 and 75,000. And at the moment, that's not exactly great. Big advantage is $1 billion in long positions is definitely a big deal. That means the institutions that have secured this for themselves could trigger a short-term upswing. Where could that go? I also want to show you in detail where I'm securing my long position, which is somewhere around 85,000. So I opened a long position in this area yesterday. I'm going to set this one to break even. But aside from that, we currently have another $230 million in shorts placed above us. That's exactly this area right here. That's also a large amount, and that's where we find a match. Not only because we had this long consolidation here, but also before another strong breakdown happened. Yeah, but in this area, that's what could maybe trigger a retest. But now let's zoom out a little bit for a moment. What has happened up to this point? We don't want to bring too much of the past into this. We want to do the analysis for the probability in the near future. We simply have this low here from November 25th, where we had this last low, the strongest low. We almost reached that. That's why there were already a huge number of long orders placed here, which I shared with you in my live streams and also in my videos. But what's really interesting now are the 1 billion longs that have already been triggered here. But what does it look like now? The $255 million in long positions that are below us, which might mean we could go down another level. Let's take a look. Let's zoom out. What would that be? That would actually be our target level. Here, we would hit the 1.618 target level, and almost at the same time down here, the last low from April 2025 after that last strong correction. I want to show this again on the daily chart. Here, as we already had a divergence of 35% correction. These 255 million have positioned themselves exactly in this area here, so in this price range, which at the same time, and let's go through it again so you understand, in case you don't know this yet, that would be the price target level from this bearish structure that was established here. It would fall down here, and that would be the 1.618 to 1.809. But we can see here where institutions have already positioned themselves in case we drop down that far. That's exactly the low we have right here below, and that's going to be very interesting. If you don't yet know how to draw and calculate this in detail, or how to try to predict probabilities, feel free to check out the playlist Learn Trading Step by Step to Profit Trading on my channel. In this playlist, I actually have several videos where I show you everything in detail. How to find Fibonacci entries, how to predict price target levels, just like I just showed here, or at least estimate them with probabilities. It's never a guarantee. But also the free tools, like how you can access level 2 data. But let's continue with the Bitcoin chart because there's a lot of exciting stuff waiting for us there. At this point, when I look at the 4-hour chart, and Taco mentioned this in the last live stream, he's a community member from the Telegram group. You can find the link in the video description. We talked about this in the last live stream, that the first divergence was already forming here, and he said, yeah, we could fall even lower here and develop this further. And that's exactly what happened. We have a rising RSI, a falling price, and that's basically where we're currently finding support. Also, the very first target level, 1.4, where we already had support back then. Of course, the exciting question is, will it hold, or are we actually going to break down further? So what are my next options now? We're seeing another sharp price drop. Here on the 4-hour chart, we have another fair value gap, which is super interesting. I'll show you that as well using an indicator. Just for visualization, it's right here, and this fair value gap could definitely become interesting if we come to fill it. We also have others above that still haven't been filled yet. And now I want to show you something. A short-term Fibonacci retracement, which is very interesting, but also finally the larger one, which could point to the $230 million in shorts. At this point, if I take the last high to this low and we use a short-term Fibonacci retracement, then we have the possibility that from this low, if this low down here holds and we don't go any lower, then we'd have to adjust it. At this moment, 85,860 to about 86,985 are interesting price levels. If we pull that over, take a look at this as well. Yeah, this 0.618 was exactly here, this support zone, before we broke down. And that's why there's also a chance that we can trigger the 0.618 as well. But that would only be a short-term Fibonacci level, and that's also the reason why I set my long position here at this 0.5 Fibonacci to break even. Because if I take my IMAs out here and then switch to the 1 hour chart, we can see that at this moment, the 50 IMA on the 1 hour chart would be right at the 0.5 Fibonacci, which would serve as protection for me since we could get another rejection here. If that's not the case and we keep moving up, and this is where it gets exciting, that we finally reach it. And you know this from my last videos. I've said it over and over again, we still have a really strong chance at a Fibonacci level that we haven't reached since here. So we haven't reached this 0.5 Fibonacci since then. If I pull this down now and remove the small Fibonacci again, and maybe the recovery happens for some reason, after all, we have news today. Apparently, the new Fed chair is going to be introduced, and if that, together with this extended bullish divergence we have here, really has a positive impact, then our target levels would be the 0.5 Fibonacci, 0.618 Fibonacci, which are at the 230 million US dollar short cluster. So that would be exactly this cluster up here. Of course, that could still change. There could be more short orders coming in, but there could also be fewer. But this cluster up here is going to be very, very interesting. If we really reach it and finally manage this recovery to the higher Fibonacci levels, and there too, we can see that the 0.5 Fibonacci is also in a very strong consolidation zone. So for me, one possibility is, if we recover more strongly than the lower Fibonacci level, then it would be exactly in this price range, which would also be interesting for me to short again. I know we don't want to short again, but we have a massive break in structure here. We can't forget that. If we draw it like this, we've actually broken down through everything. We moved outward. We even had a strong retest with this high here, if we take a look at it. And after that, there was another big sell-off to the downside. If we look at this with the liquidation levels, at least if we go into the 3-month view, it doesn't look that strong right now. We do have liquidations lying exactly at this level here, and quite a few of them too. Of course, we also have to look a bit deeper at what has happened in the last 3 days. And there we see stronger liquidation clusters, 85,661 US dollars. A very, very interesting cluster now for a recovery. And above that, they're still spread out quite a bit. We must not lose sight of that, even if it might not stand out that much at this point in time. It just doesn't stand out as much because this liquidation is spread out over a price range of a few $100s. And there's still quite a bit here as well. That'd be up to 86,500 US dollars. And then we go back down to the small Fibonacci level, and that's exactly where the 0.5 to 0.618 Fibonacci lies in this price range. What did I say at the beginning of the video? That's also where the fair value cap is located. Here in this price range, I can imagine that we'll see a short-term rejection again. For this reason, I also secure my long position at break even there, in case we really go further down and hit our lower levels here. Yes, where another 255 million are still present, so that my position doesn't go further into the red. But now let's take a look at the 1 billion in longs that were triggered. There was a lot of volume yesterday. Yeah, this is exactly this part here. We consolidated, we recovered a bit, but it's exactly this candle that went down here, right? So this little part here. And these were long orders that were placed here. And if I click on this here now, you'll see what I mean. 925 million US dollars in long orders were opened just on Binance, and then another 289 million on OKX. So I'm actually talking about almost 1.3 billion that were opened here. That's quite a lot. So more than what I actually wrote here with 1 billion. We have 1.3 billion just in futures, just on OKX and just on Binance. And I haven't even included the spot purchases of 10 million and 12 million at OKX and Binance. And we're only talking about 2 exchanges here. So you can imagine what must have happened on the other exchanges. The question is, are you going to just accept that so we can go even lower? Or are these positions going to get liquidated? If they're institutional investors, of course they won't like to see that. So it's important to keep monitoring what the new level 2 data is showing. We can also see, right below this cluster, if I zoom in again, right where this wick ended, we can take a look at what's currently there. Some of these orders have been placed for quite a while. How much is still sitting here right now? 92 million, 15 million, and 3.53 in spot as well. So right now we have 100 million sitting below us. And if we move a bit further, that number will increase a little. 106, so that's 125 million. What did I write here? 100 million. So we're a little over 100 million that's still just barely below us. So in this case, right now, Bitcoin is really very interesting. If we reach that, meaning this target level plus the 255 million US dollars in loans, which would also be this low here, I would risk opening new positions here. By that I mean futures positions, but I would also open a long crypto trading bot here as well. But until then, I'll just let the market do its thing and analyze it again afterwards. Otherwise, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed to my channel, and also left a comment under this video to help boost the algorithm a bit. See you next time.